Hey guys, and welcome to another 3D workshop training tutorial. This tutorial is a follow-on from the previous tutorial on how to create a clay render, and in this tutorial we are going to learn how to create a wireframe render so that you can use it to help show off your model's topology, and it will really enhance your showreel and any works that you produce. And it's great to show people that are potentially going to hire you, that you have an understanding of how the model's topology works, and that you've done things correctly. So let's look at how to do that. First of all, we are going to select all the objects in the scene and create a new render layer. So we select just the objects and select this button here, create new layer under our renders tab. I'll create a new layer and let's call it wireframe. Now that we've got our wireframe layer set up, we need to assign a new shader. We're going to assign a surface shader. So we're going to double click it and call it wireframe shader. We're then going to assign that shader to the objects by right clicking, assign material to selection. Everything's going to turn a black color. Now it's just a matter of going into the shader's attributes. Let's turn the color to a nice white color. Well, a very ugly white color actually. Now we need to edit the shader further to get the wireframe set up. So let's double click our shader in the hypershade and select this button here to show the input and output nodes. And we need to select this one here, surface shader SG. And it's just up here. Now we just need to go to mental ray here and enable contour rendering. Now this will allow us to create lines for the shader and show the object. So let's make the lines a black color, and they currently got we'll leave the alpha at 1. We're going to make the width, say, 0.4. This will be the width or the thickness of the line. Next, we need to tell mental ray, the renderer, that we are going to be using contour rendering. To do that, open up your the render settings. Make sure you've got final gather off. You need to have ray tracing on. So turn up the samples nice and high. 3 is normally a good place. These renders generally render out very, very fast, so it's a good thing. So now we need to go into the features and scroll down to contours. We need to enable contour rendering. Let's hide the source. That will hide the objects from the view, but will still show up the contour render. So that means we'll still see the lines, but we won't see the objects in the scene. We'll leave the filter Gaussians are generally a good place to start. We need to enable around silhouette. Around all poly faces, this means that every single poly face will have a line around it. We need to enable all these here. What we're really interested in is enable normal contrast. This this number here will vary depending on your object, the scale of the scene, etc., etc. But just know that all it does is it's just a search. It just tells my how much to search the different poly faces for different polygons to show up the lines. So it's just a matter of fiddling around with the normal contrast to get a result that looks appealing. Also, if we increase the oversamples, we can smoothen up the lines if they look a little bit rough and scratchy. So let's do a test render and see how things look. Almost there. Still here, still rendering. It's taking a little bit longer than I expected. Not too sure why. It's probably one of the settings I've messed around with earlier. I'm just going to pause the video. Okay, sorry guys about that. Turns out that what was causing the render times to take so long is the really high dense mesh that I've got here, and that's probably not something you really need to include in your clay renders. So what we're going to do is hopefully we can just maybe, I'm not sure whether we can do this, but we can just, okay, we can't take the level of detail down in the objects number of polygons, so we're just going to have to deal with it, unfortunately. But when you do your wireframe renders, try to keep the mesh a relatively low detail. Anyway, let's take this into Photoshop and see how it looks with our clay render. Remember to save it out with an image that file format that supports an alpha channel, such as a PNG or TIFF. So let's save that out. Open up. Here's our clay render that we did earlier. Open our wireframe. Control A to select all, Control C to copy, Control Shift V to paste. Make sure it's on the top layer, and there you go. You've got your wireframe set up. This will look great in your folios and your show reels, and it'll really add extra life to them, and it's really simple to set up. And I really hope you guys have enjoyed this tutorial and learned something from it. And thanks for watching.